Hi. So, a couple of things before I move on. First of all, look up something in the news called mysterious brain eating disease is affecting dozens of people in New Brunswick, Canada. That article came out a few weeks ago, and since then, there have been other reports of um, basically a mad cow like disease unfolding in humans. This is not a joke. The New York Times and Washington Post have reported on it, and there have been a lot of very strange reports of zombie animals as well, literally using the word zombie in the articles. So I recommend you check that out. And the NPC subject has been coming back, so I gotta tackle it again. And here's basically an update on what I feel about NPCs. So, first and foremost, there's an infinite number and infinite variations of expressions of consciousness. Everything is consciousness. And because of that, you have infinite shades of quantum oscillating harmonics that are tuned to an infinite number of potentialities that can express themselves in a myriad of different ways. This includes very different things, like the consciousness of a fly as compared to a consciousness of a human. Do you think that flies are conscious? I think they are. I think they're conscious in a very minuscule way. It is a very faint signature that is oscillating in an almost non existent tone, but it's oscillating nonetheless. So, having said that, would that work the same for artificial intelligence? Yes. If something is conscious, then something has a soul, even if that soul is minuscule in its development by comparison to what we deem as organic consciousness. So, for example, the pod people that I've seen in dreams previously, they are experiencing life through a VR, through a third person like setting. And as a result, their awareness, their structure, their oscillations are not harmonious, and they are rigid and structured. And that is the whole point of their existence, is for their lives to be managed and for them to basically behave like what you would think of as an NPC. Programmable, right? If you're experiencing life in third person, you are far more programmable than an organic soul that has just arrived from source consciousness itself, or an extraterrestrial that is incarnated here from a higher development or more highly developed species. So, regardless, these are all infinite variations and expressions of God. No matter how dark they are, no matter how light they are, I saw a being in my hellish experience, the one who was darker than the dark that I was in, who vomited on my face after I was going through that torment with all the zombie like people that all still very much had souls. That dark being still had a soul, even though it was a pitch black soul. Everything is soul, everything is consciousness, And even artificial intelligence isn't artificial since it had to originate from elsewhere. It is more akin to sorcery and magic than what you think of as technology. Um, Having said that, are there robotic entities walking the earth? Yes, there are. And there are doppelgangers and clones and humans disguised as aliens walking the earth, especially if my suspicions are correct that we shifted into a VR like setting where everything is already tainted as it is. However, the main argument being made about NPCs is that they are organic vessels without a soul, and they're simply placed to basically help us to develop and evolve and become, aware of our own divine nature. But what's incorrect is that we are also there to help them evolve from their lesser states. So just think of it for yourself. Is a mentally retarded person an NPC? A person that has very limited cognitive ability or awareness. Now, many would disagree if they look into the eyes of such people. They often see more of a soul than quote unquote regular people. Does a fly, does a mosquito, does a plant, all of these have some sort of limited level of awareness. Lost my train of thought here. And it is all in different stages of development. This is what I believe. Again, though, there is truth here to a degree, I believe, because a few months back when I was in Florida, I made a video about how we, because of CERN, are quantumly entangled, and basically we boomeranged our present now into an inorganic VR future that we're tethered to. And because of that tethering that's taking place, we have basically, quote unquote, robotoid consciousness seeping through that reality into ours, converting it into that future. So, but again, we're talking about specifically empty vessels here and souls. They're not empty vessels. Nothing is an empty vessel. Source creates infinite consciousness, infinite expression that is boundless and without end. And it is infinite in that present moment, in the forever now, infinitely expressing itself. So you have an infinite number of variations from light to dark and other concepts that we cannot comprehend, expressing itself as consciousness through robots, through third persons, through mosquitoes, through flies. It is all consciousness. You can, in that case, you might as well just say it's all NPCs, because that's what we all are. We are vessels of the source. You know what? There's actually been quite a few reported cases of UFO abductions in which the abductee would claim that they were abducted by robots, by sentient, aware robots. And they literally looked like Bender from Futurama. There's a channel called Beyond Creepy that touches these like rare and interesting sorts of cases. Whether true or not, is interesting nonetheless. So, anyway, in conclusion, I do also wanted to mention that I recommend you check out Cyrus Kirkpatrick, friend of mine on Facebook that I've been communicating with a lot lately. He's a great author and very practical and pragmatic in terms of what his view of the afterlife is. He's an out of body traveler. His latest videos are particularly good. So the channel is called Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. And he has a similar take on this whole NPC idea. Basically, in conclusion, what I'm saying is that there are technically NPCs, I believe so, especially since that rift that we're tethered to from the boomerang effect of CERN, we are seeping through information from an AI future. Now, even the AI future has soul, but it is a diminished soul. Now, one of you talks about this, John James. It is a process of diminishing the soul and extinguishing as much of it as possible, but it will always reach a point where it can no longer function. And there comes a point where it snaps and everything just returns back to source, because you cannot infinitely diminish consciousness, even with infinite variables, which is a contradiction, I know, because everything in creation is a contradiction. God is a contradiction. God doesn't know why God exists either. So, kind of a long video. June 10th, there's some solar eclipse. A lot of people are banging the Petco 2 drums again. I'm not at all. Not whatsoever. I have barely even looked at the damn thing for weeks now, and I'm so over it. There's another Ring of Fire solar eclipse, October 14th, 2023. And if it is related to a solar eclipse, then it's far more likely to occur then. So I wouldn't put too much credibility on June 10th. But we'll see, I suppose. Anyway, final thoughts is that we're all teaching each other. We're all helping each other. The NPCs are being helped. The non-NPCs are being helped. We have to be the resistance to push against that diminishment of consciousness. We have to resist that push that pulls in the downward spiral and help things bring back things into balance so that it can basically have a symbiotic relationship between different variations of consciousness, and we all help each other evolve. But who knows what the future will bring.